The Entrepreneur's Library, episode 80.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Library, the only book-centric podcast that reviews all the top-selling business books and shares authors' perspective firsthand. This is your resource to finding the next great book that will enable you to grow personally and professionally. Welcome your host, Wade Danielson.
Thank you for joining us on the EL. First off, I wanted to mention a few things before we get started with today's interview. First and foremost, we have revamped our show notes page. We did this for several reasons, but if you check out the new show notes at the elpodcast.com, you will notice that it is much clearer and easier to find what you're looking for. You have multiple options of how you can consume the content. You can look at the shorthand notes, you can listen to the podcast, you can read the full transcription. A couple of other handy tools are the resources we provide from each interview, and also a 2-minute takeaway video that we have on each book. Lastly, we're giving you the opportunity to speak your mind, leaving comments or filling out a survey. We would love to hear from you on how we can improve the show, the format, or the website. Plus, and more importantly, it gives you an opportunity to keep the conversation going. And speaking of that, let's jump right into today's interview with Alex Rodriguez, author of Digital Bacon. Make your online presence irresistibly attractive. Welcome, Alex, and thank you for joining us on the Entrepreneur's Library.
Thank you very much, Wade. I really appreciate being here today.
Absolutely. Will you take just a moment to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about you personally?
Sure, absolutely. What I do is I develop high-end digital marketing campaigns for companies that are looking to transform their brands and attract more business to themselves. My focus is launch campaigns, and I've built some launch campaigns for some of the world's most renowned brands, such as Disney, Busch Gardens, SeaWorld, and the list goes on and on. I was born in New York City. I grew up in the Dominican Republic, which is my parents' homeland, and started my career there in the Dominican Republic in the advertising industry. Then came back to New York, worked about a year in New York, and then came down to Florida, where I continued working in broadcasting and advertising and whatnot. And now I lead my own agency called Yummy Marketing.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing all that. Now let's jump right into your book, which also has an awesome name, just like the company you just mentioned, but Digital Bacon, which was just made available for purchase on September 18th of 2014. And Alex, we're going to move quickly, but the whole point with this interview is to cover your book in its entirety and really cover the top questions that our listener/reader wants to get answered. And the first one we start off with is a little bit more background behind the book, and that's what was the inspiration behind writing Digital Bacon?
Right. Well, we're in a very interesting era, where this is deemed by many the digital era, right? Where pretty much everybody has access to tools to become their own advertiser, their own publisher, media manager, copywriter, marketer, which in other times, this was, you had to do this through an agency, right? You had to do this through middlemen and people that were, more experienced and went to school for these things. And now you have the ability to go directly and market your business online, which absolutely is very positive, and I'm all in favor of that, But with that immediacy of access to these channels comes a very big challenge, and it's that not everybody is used to knowing how to promote our businesses online in a very effective manner. So I think throughout the years, we've lost a little bit of those, so to speak, those orthodox methodologies that have worked for so many years in advertising, but translated to a digital era, they do carry over. But we just need to understand them first and then understand how exactly those methodologies do carry over into, solid ways to promote our business and our brand online. So that was the inspiration behind that. I recognized that there was a niche, a void for speaking about very tried and proven tactics and methodologies. And I decided to write a book just to address that point.
Excellent. There are some other books or podcasts or blogs that people can find with similar type content, but what makes your book different from others regarding the same topic?
Right, absolutely. And in the digital media, there are many books about all different type of subjects, and I'm all in favor. Again, I'm not speaking negatively about anything, because I think the more information there's out there, the better. What I've seen the majority of books in digital media, digital marketing per se, is more books on tactics, so very specific tactics. And I do call social media a tactic. I call podcasting a tactic. I call email marketing a tactic. But I didn't see that there was a book that would talk about a campaign from beginning to end. And I wanted to write that book to talk about these tactics, but in the context of a full beginning to end campaign. And that's what I think, why I think Digital Bacon is a little bit different than your regular book on digital media.
So based on what you just said, is as far as a full campaign, my next question is really, how do you suggest the reader engage with your book? But also, I guess, if someone's mid-campaign, so you suggest someone reading this from front to back, or really jump in and cherry pick different information based on where they need? Like in your case, maybe if they're halfway through the campaign, can they jump in, or do you suggest starting from the beginning?
Yeah, certainly. You can definitely read the table of contents and, pick out some things that you might want to refine or want to learn how to do better. You can certainly do that and go straight to that point. However, I did write the book in the context of a campaign development process. So it is important that whoever picks up the book, that starts from the beginning, at least to understand what I'm talking about when I tell my readers about the context of a campaign. What is a campaign framework? Because the bacon in the title is actually BACON. It's an acronym for the 5 essential components of an irresistibly attractive online presence. So in order to understand each of these points, it's really important to go kind of through them one by one. And in the book, I also offer downloadable worksheets, and I link to many, many different tools and resources. So it is sort of built to kind of hold you by the hand as you develop your campaign. Now, if you're in mid-campaign, you can certainly go straight to the point where you're looking at. But I think even if you're in the middle or the end of a campaign, it helps to understand kind of the framework to make sure that you haven't forgotten one of these 5 essential components of a solid digital campaign.
Excellent, Alex. So now that we know the background behind the book, the inspiration and what makes it different, this is my favorite part, and I want to just hand over the mic and allow you to take our reader/listener, basically from front to back, like we just discussed, and so they know exactly what the book's about. And so take the next 5-10 minutes and help us understand what your book is all about, please.
Absolutely, yes. So the subtitle of the book is "Make Your Online Presence Irresistibly Attractive." And that's the objective of this book, is how to we all want to make our online presence attractive. We want to attract, viewers, customers, clients to our presence so that, we can obviously prosper in business. The digital bacon in the title, the bacon represents a metaphor for what is attractive to us. I don't think anybody other than vegetarians and people of that sort would not be attracted to a nice crispy strip of bacon. But aside from that, it's also the acronym for the 5 essential components of a digital marketing strategy. Now, I've looked through hundreds and hundreds of different campaigns online, and I've separated the ones that work from the ones that don't work. And looking at the ones that work, I've recognized that all of them have these 5 components, and they always turn up. And I wrote my book around that understanding that this is something that is not by chance. It's not by accident. There is a reason why these campaigns are successful. And it's because these 5 essential components are always here. And I'm going to go through them very quickly. Now, the B in the bacon formula, and this is what I call the digital bacon formula. The B stands for based on reality. So these successful campaigns, they throw out the wishes and whims, and it's all about research facts about the market and their current situations. Now, and I should have said this a little bit before, but with each of these essential components, I match it up with an essential phase, an essential process to acquire this component for your campaign. So with B, based on reality, we're suggesting you deploy a discovery phase. So I teach you in the book how to build a successful discovery phase, and that includes, discovering your current site, your current social media presence, your press that is about you. And then I look at what you really offer. So, what is it that you're really offering? What is that product or service? And just really taking a look at it from a very fresh perspective, and I ask you some very, challenging questions to make you think very deeply about what you offer. Then we talk about purchase drivers. So I have a whole list about, purchase driver, which is much more than just, driving down your cost or your price. It's more, other things that really pull the trigger and allow you to sell online. Then we talk about keyword research. I teach you how to build a keyword research. The SWOT snapshot, SWOT, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So looking at your opportunity online, SWOT, how to build a SWOT snapshot. Then we look at building an audience profile. So considering geography, seasonal considerations, demographics, psychographics, and then after you build this audience profile, building a persona and personifying who's your ideal client, your ideal customer. And then with all this research, I ask you to really wind it down into 10 big lessons. So what are the 10 big things that you learned out of your discovery phase? And then that leads right into the A in the digital bacon formula, which is aimed toward results. Effective online efforts are based on measurable goals. Every initiative is informed by a plan customized to its business needs. So in this quality, what I recommend you go into is a strategy phase. So this is something that not every business out there thinks strategically about their online presence, but I challenge you and I show you how to do it. In this chapter, I show you how to select a primary KPI, and here the KPI, which means key performance indicator. And I'm not talking about business KPIs or accounting KPIs. It's specifically digital KPIs. So I give you a list of KPIs that you can choose and aim toward for your digital campaign. Then we talk about potential competitive exploits, which as severe that sounds. I show you about 7 different things that your competitor might be lacking that you might be able to exploit to get an edge upon them. Then I talk about the difference of strategic schemes, tactics, and strategies, which absolutely mean 3 completely different things. And I tell you how to differentiate them and how to incorporate these 3 notions into your campaign. Under tactics, we talk about sales tactics, audience building tactics, awareness tactics, engagement tactics, loyalty tactics, mobile specific tactics. I have 17 pages of tactics that work today, and that's in the strategy phase of the book. Then we talk about the C in the digital bacon formula, which is cookie cutter. No, I'm just kidding. It's creatively developed. Creatively developed. Cookie cutter just doesn't cut it anymore. In order to stand out from the crowd, these digital campaigns manage to be unique and exquisitely produced. So the phase that corresponds to creatively developed is the production phase. And I talk about in this chapter, I talk about the value of creative excellence that is still very relevant today. I talk about mind mapping, bulleting, creative processes, how to generate your most creative ideas. And then I talk about 3 mind hacks that have helped me personally, how to hack your mind to produce more creative ideas. Then I go into production timelines, how to produce your assets, so very production-specific tasks. And then a few subsections that I like a lot, which is how to get visitors to do exactly what you want them to. So the whole concept of a call to action, how to build a strong, irresistibly attractive call to action. Then I talk about how to write headlines that hook. And I talk about the difference between headlines for articles and blog posts and headlines for emails, and which are the goals that we're trying to accomplish with each of those headlines, right? So then the next chapter and the next letter in the digital bacon formula is the O, right? Organized in propagation. The reason these successful campaigns are found is because they distribute their offer correctly on the web. So they choose their channels, they distribute it in the time and the space and the particularity in the right way, right? So here I talk about, channels online, earned channels versus owned channels versus paid media channels, what the difference is between these and how to utilize them best for your campaign. We talk about distribution frameworks. So I talk about frameworks such as the direct framework, the drip framework, the experience framework, the response-based framework, and how these campaigns, you can choose which one of these works best for you and how to deploy them. Then I talk about distribution, manual versus automated distribution. I talk about trackability, so making sure your assets are trackable, that you can come back and measure them. Then I have a chapter that's just very bold for me to say, but I have the ultimate website pre-launch checklist. So this is a 2.5-page checklist for you to apply or hand to your web developer before you launch any web presence online. Make sure you can check all these boxes, because these are essentials that I've found over the years, that you cannot deploy anything without checking all these things and without making sure you do them. I have a formula on how much you should bid for pay-per-click ads if you choose to go that route, the paid channel ad. And then, I talk about designing your distribution plan, making sure that you have everything planned out for maximum impact online. And then finally, the N in the Digital Bacon formula is numerically measured. These campaigns never measure results in the form of vague adjectives, but rather as numbers, right? They rely on objective measurements to know whether their efforts are moving their business forward or not. So this is paired with the phase I call the analysis phase. And this is where we go back and check these metrics and make sure that our campaign is on track. So I have a section here on reviewing your KPIs. Those KPIs you established back in the strategy phase, how to break them open and review them and make sure that you're actually moving forward, gathering that data, interpreting that data, and then identifying in a very honest way which were your wins and which are your losses, right? And based on your losses, so what can we do? With losses is not for us to sit down and cry. It's for us to do very specific things to correct the course of our campaign, whether it's optimization, whether it's optimizing your user experience, optimizing your web performance, your content, your offer itself, et cetera, et cetera. Then I talk about a couple of testing methods that you can apply in order to, again, measure your online presence and make sure that it's hitting on point. And then finally, I included so many downloadable resources and links to tools that I said, you know what, let me put two pages at the very end with all those links. So I restate all those links so that when you're reading, if you want to say, oh, wait, what was that link where I could do this and this and that, you could just go to the end, to the appendix, and you can find an easy to read list of resources and downloadable tools.
Excellent. So, Alex, I say this a lot, maybe too much, but I think this next question is kind of tough because you just went through a ton of great information taking us through your book. And so this next one is even going to break it down even further. And I'm really asking for just the one golden nugget, and that's that the reader could only take away one concept, principle, or action out of your entire book. What would you want that to be?
Right. Well, if I were to tell the reader to take something like in the middle of my book, it would kind of be devoid of the whole context of what I'm putting forward, right? So I think the main concept in this book that I'm putting forward is whether, traditional advertising for years and years, call it the digital bacon formula or not, I would challenge anybody that's working on their online presence to think about it in the terms of a campaign. So make sure that it's researchable, that it's strategic, creative, properly distributed, and measurable. If you're lacking on any of those 5 concepts, then I would suggest that it's time to take a step back and really look at how you can incorporate one of these concepts into your campaign for maximum effect.
Excellent. Alex, do you have a favorite quote from your book, either one that's resonated with your audience so far or one of your personal favorites?
Yeah, there's some there. I didn't pull out pull quotes or tweetables like a lot of authors do because my book is very practical in the way I'm leading people by the hand. But I do challenge readers in many sections, and one of them that I mentioned already is challenging the reader to think about their offer. And one of the quotes in that section says, "Many of us are so engrossed into our respective businesses that we forget a key fact. What we think we sell is irrelevant. The way you dreamed up your product or service, the years you put into it, the passion you have for it, the amazing team behind it, it is all irrelevant unless your offer satisfies a functional need for someone else."
Excellent. That's huge.
Absolutely.
So, Alex, I think your book specifically is going to help out a ton of people move forward. And this next question is really asking you for the same thing that from you, I guess, is what book have you read or that you could recommend to our listener/reader that really had a huge impact on your life?
Absolutely, yeah. And like I said, I've spent so many years in traditional advertising, and although I'm I'm very passionate about digital media and about the potential of connecting an individual with an accurate solution to their problem. My knowledge and my experience is very engrossed and very founded on traditional advertising principles. And for that reason, I would say David Ogilvy is somebody that I admire a lot. And his book, Ogilvy on Advertising, would be something that I would recommend anybody. No matter what you think, no matter what you do, even if you're not an advertiser or not part of an advertising agency, like I said, in this digital area, we're all advertisers. We're all promoting our businesses or ourselves as professionals, and it's very helpful to kind of ground those principles in these tried and proven concepts and notions on advertising. So that's one I would recommend, Ogilvy. And it's not very common that you'll find an author that is naming his book on himself, right? That's seen as very pompous, right? But he was the man. He earned the stripes and he earned the right to do that. So Ogilvy on Advertising.
Well, Alex, before we depart, can you recommend the best way for our listeners to not only get more information on you, but also your book, Digital Bacon?
Absolutely. Yeah. The book site is digitalbaconbook.com. So digitalbaconbook.com. And there you'll find a little bit more about the book and why you should read it, and also the links to purchase if you decide to do that. And then I'd like to invite your listeners onto my blog, my article site, which is creativestrategytips.com, creativestrategytips.com. And right there I have another book, a very small book, which is called the Creative Strategy Manifesto, that I'm offering there for free download if you want to do that. It's a very small book. It wasn't published traditionally. I'll have it there for a limited time because I do want to publish it on the Kindle marketplace very soon. But for now, you can just grab it for free and just run with it.
Excellent. Well, Alex, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your creation, your book with us.
Well, thank you very much, Wade. And I really appreciate what you're doing with this podcast. And I very much wish you much success.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Looking for your next book idea? Head over to the elpodcast.com, where Wade shares his amazing resource, the top 10 business books recommended by over 500 entrepreneurs, with you for free. That's the elpodcast.com. Till the next time, keep it on the EL.